YNW Melly and his manager have just announced his official release date from jail. This is breaking information that we need to talk about, so let's get straight into it. YNW Melly's manager just put on Instagram saying, and I quote, "Melly comes home in 2 months. Y'all better tighten up." Now this is a response to all of the people calling out YNW Melly for allegedly doing the act towards 2 of his best friends. YNW Melly's manager said 2 months because YNW Melly's official trial begins on March 7th, which is in 2 months. YNW Melly and his lawyers have been creating a way for YNW Melly to be released, and it's actually very unique. Prosecutors believe they have gathered enough evidence for the trial to start after a long 2 years. In the latest court hearing, prosecutors requested the Broward County judge to force YNW Melly to provide his DNA. Prosecutors believe they can solve the whole court case by using YNW Melly's DNA. They also asked for all of YNW Melly's body measurements, meaning the length of his arms and legs, as well as his body weight. This is so then they can create a model of YNW Melly's body so they can recreate the scene on what they believe happened. In the latest court hearing, YNW Melly and his lawyers agreed to the prosecutor's terms. In return, they would like to have a speedy trial. This means that the court date March 7th will not be able to be pushed back or delayed for any period of time. YNW Melly and his lawyers know that it's taken law enforcement years to find any sort of evidence on YNW Melly, and who's to say that they don't have good enough evidence by the time the trial begins, so they try to push it back even further. But if a speedy trial is in place, prosecutors will not be able to push the court case back, meaning that YNW Melly will be let free by Florida law. In his latest court hearing, a timeline of what happened the day Sackchaser and Juvie passed was shared. All of the evidence against YNW Melly is crucial when you hear the timeline of what happened the day Sackchaser and Juvie sadly passed. Now it starts on October 26th in 2018. At roughly 3:30 a.m., YNW Melly, YNW Juvie, YNW Sackchaser, and YNW Portland were all at a recording studio getting work done until their session was over. Once their session was complete, they all hopped inside of their Jeep and started heading home. All 4 of them ended up living in the same house at this current moment. The driver of the vehicle, being Cortland Henry, otherwise known as YNW Portland, was the man driving the vehicle this day. YNW Melly was sitting directly behind him, with YNW Portland and Juvie on the opposite side of the vehicle. YNW Portland ended up driving on a back road home. This was to skip early morning traffic, allegedly, but while law enforcement can't figure out what exactly happened inside of the vehicle, the theory is that the car was pulled over to the side of the road. A distraction was made within the vehicle that would catch Juvie and Sackchaser off guard. Once caught off guard, this is when allegedly YNW Melly did the act towards both of them in the vehicle. Law enforcement believe that it was YNW Melly who did the act, as Melly sent his girlfriend at the time a text message saying, and I quote, "I kept Portland with me because at the end of the day, he did one of the realest stuff in my life." Now this could be YNW Melly's way of thanking Portland for remaining loyal and not snitching. However, law enforcement believe that after the act was done, that the Jeep was then brought into a side parking lot where nobody was in sight, and YNW Melly and YNW Portland used 40 minutes to rough up the vehicle, using firearms towards it in a 360-degree motion, making it appear as if they went through a drive-by. The drive-by would then be their excuse on what happened to YNW Sackchaser and Juvie when they finally brought them to the hospital after 40 minutes. Now it wasn't until February 13th where YNW Melly was brought into jail for the act that led to Juvie and Sackchaser's passing. YNW Portland was then brought into jail as well for 2 counts of accessory and helping YNW Melly cover it up. Law enforcement has been building up evidence against Melly for 2 years. Here's all the evidence that they have found so far. Right now, here's a majority of the evidence going against YNW Melly on March 7th. This will be the first piece of evidence. In this photo, this is where everybody was sitting inside of the Jeep when the so-called drive-by occurred. This explains why prosecutors want YNW Melly's body measurements due to him sitting in the back seat on the driver's side. Then on the opposite side of the vehicle, that is where YNW Juvie and YNW Sack Chaser, which are the two that sadly passed, were sitting on that night. Then these documents were also released to the courtroom. It states, and I quote, "Then also, we have a video of Mr. Demons admitting to doing an act towards two individuals in the head." The next one states, "This video was on Mr. Demon's cell phone, which was brought to my office by Jameson Francis, and that is how we had that, and that is all of the evidence that Your Honor has." A quick little backstory behind that, YNW Melly's manager, otherwise known as 100K Management, has been holding YNW Melly's cell phone since he was arrested. Law enforcement then put a warrant out for the cell phone, so he had to give up the piece of evidence, or he could have been charged himself. They then scanned through YNW Melly's cell phone and found a video of him admitting to doing it. Now the next one states, and I quote, "These particular cell phones, which were both iPhone 10s, were on the T-Mobile network. And so T-Mobile has a very interesting feature where it will tell you the environment the cell phone is in. So from these cell phone records, I can tell you the exact moment Demons got out of the car and staged the drive-by location. Also, in the vehicle where YNW Melly allegedly did the act towards both individuals, there was allegedly a huge piece of evidence left in the vehicle, being a yellow jacket. This yellow jacket was analyzed by the Broward Sheriff's Office's crime lab, and a report was then issued. Dated September 2nd, 2021, the report indicates that Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sack Chaser's DNA, was part of the sample, and that there are 3 other potential contributors. The contributor profiles are not eligible to be entered. The prosecutors want to prove YNW Melly is guilty by using a DNA test, which in the court of law is very hard evidence to beat, but what I'm very confused about with this piece of evidence is that YNW Melly is already admitted to being in the car, so there's a very good chance that his DNA or thumbprints is gonna be on that yellow jacket. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Make sure you leave a like on the video and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. It's been District Trending and I'm out. Peace.